I always feel the pressure to find the perfect gift for my relatives. In this case, whether you're sending an unforgettable gift or treating yourself to everyday perfection, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience. For me, I'm not just into steaks. I like all types of meat. That's why I'll usually get the Winter's Best Seller Pack. It comes with juicy fillets, chicken breast, pork chops, and even burgers. Omaha Steaks offers unrivaled quality and variety, and every bite is backed by their 100% guarantee. A family-owned company with over 100 years of experience in the meat industry. Save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and earn an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code YUM at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code YUM at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. Go to omahasteaks.com to get 50% off site-wide plus an extra 20% off select favorites and more limited-time deals during their cyber sale. And use promo code YUM at checkout for an extra $35 off. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details. A big thanks to our advertiser, Omaha Steaks.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care. Go to Dutch.com to get vet care that is always there for just $92 a year.
What's up, guys? Bones from Slasher Radio here. We're about to be joined by Kevin Lewis, the director of Willy's Wonderland, the killer animatronic movie starring Nick Cage, and the upcoming Cineverse distributed Pig Hill. This movie is bloody, gory, and based off of a real urban legend of the pig people in Meadville, Pennsylvania.
Urban legend.
We talked to Kevin about adapting this urban legend into a movie, the film's use of violent and unsettling content, working with Cineverse and their huge role in getting unrated horror movies like Terrifier and Pig Hill into theaters, and so much more on Pig Hill and the horror genre in general. This was a dope conversation, and you know we couldn't let Kevin go without talking Willy's Wonderland. If you're a horror fan, we know you'll love this video and this interview. So slash those like and subscribe buttons, and let's get to Kevin. For your time, Kevin, we appreciate you, man.
Oh, absolutely, buddy. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I sat down and watched your film.
Yeah.
And, before we go through these things, usually just setting up for the interview process on our end, we come up with a list of questions, try to act like we know what we're doing and everything. But after watching this movie, about 40 minutes in, I was like, okay, first question I'm asking this gentleman is, what the fuck? And in a good way.
Yeah, that's cool.
I feel like it's big for people to know that Pig Hill is based off of urban legend, folklore, and there's actual background and context and even source material to this. Would you be able to go over that and what it was like, the inspiration of turning this into a film?
Absolutely. There's a lot of urban legends about the pig people at Meadville, Pennsylvania. I read the script, which was by Jared Burris, which was awesome, and then it was based on a book by Nancy Williams, and it all takes place in Meadville. The producer Ted, R.A., and so they're all from Pennsylvania and Meadville, and so there's we have a beer in the movie that's a 33 Taps. That's a Pig Hill beer, so they take this folklore urban legend very seriously. So there was a respect to that material. And so that was kind of exciting. Like, okay, and it was great to talk to people and hear what they thought about who's the pig people and are they lepers or they, there's just so many different, variations. And then in terms of like what made me want to tackle the story, it was like, I really liked the whole, it's like a creature feature and stuff, but then, it's kind of a MacGuff. There's a MacGuffin, thrown in there, and then
Hmm.
the third act, it was like, okay, now I was pretty excited about it because it really turns into a drama. And
Hmm.
to me, good horror is good drama. It's dealing with stakes and dealing with the fear, right, of things.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fear of creatures and fear of what you can't see and otherworldly things, and then the fear of oneself in this movie. So that kind of drew me to it. And making movies is about exploring the human condition, and I think there's a lot of going on in that in this movie. So I think it kind of had a lot of genres. It's like a horror, thriller, slasher, psychological horror, drama. I mean, there's a lot you could throw in it, and that was kind of the fun part. Was like, okay, it's a balancing act on getting all these different themes and moods and atmospheres and tones, and how do you make it original and unique, different, and weave its way into
And work together.
and work
Yeah.
together. Exactly. So that was the challenge and the exciting part, but making movies are always challenging. So yeah, that was one thing that drew me to it for sure.
Nice, nice. And you mentioned the respect of the lore and everything that goes behind it. And you still have to make a movie at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So that's an important balance and a difficult balance, I'd
Yeah.
imagine. But what went into and more so maybe how did you tackle the depths that you went into? Because you have to include, and I'm talking like the extreme visuals and the blood, the gore, the guts, because it's in the lore and everything, but
Yeah.
you're picking and choosing how far you want to go. And
Yeah.
you went all the way. And what was that? What went behind that decision?
When I got the script, I really wanted to hone in on like Carrie's point of view. It's going through her. She's like the source, right? That we're going through. We're seeing this movie through. So I wanted to be like her point of view. What's going on in her? Where is she emotionally? Where is it? So I really started drilling down on those and like, what do those dreams mean? And what does the pig symbolize? And everything. And the colors. To me, the reds. We bring in the reds near. The reds. Mean the past and also the present, because there's the flashbacks, right? So there's all that stuff going on. So the idea of like you say, how far, the pig baby scene, and what do you want to do? What do you show? What do you not show? And I'm a big, we're making movies, right? So it's rather show than tell. But then it's like, okay, what is in your mind could be a little bit more crazier or scarier than what's in my mind, and maybe I can't match what you're thinking. So I go more the psychological route, which has always been my favorite. Movies like The Shining and the TV movie Burnt Offerings, like all these movies that go, The Changeling with George C. Scott,
Yeah.
like I like Rosemary's Baby.
Hmm.
I mean, Rosemary's Baby, there's a sequence there at the dinner table with the older couple, and it's like, it's just creepy, man, You're like, why is that? Right. And it's like, well, there weren't any scenes with these people before that you didn't know, but there's just something off. And so, like, how do you get that in tone, on this movie? And so that was a big deal for me. And when I got to Meadville and saw the real locations and everything, was like, okay, grounded in reality, but then also going into the kind of phantasmic world, so that was kind of the balance, but again, another challenge.
Yeah. And you mentioned, you kind of touched on this, but I did have it lined up to ask you.
Yeah.
You guys filmed on location in Meadville, and
Yeah.
obviously there's so much there for this story, and you guys made it a point to do that. And how important was that to you to, because you could have filmed it anywhere. You could have ran up to
Yeah.
Canada, and just said,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But you made it a point to do that. And what did you have anything where you ran into, like, you hear this a lot with like the Blair Witch Project and everything, right? Where it's like, oh, people in the area talked about this and that. Like, just what was the experience as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, tribute to the producers on that. They were the ones that were from Pennsylvania. The cool thing is they had a connection to like George Romero. Some of the actors and the producers, they had a connection to George Romero, and so they wanted to bring back an indie cool horror movie to Pennsylvania. And so they optioned this book, and it was from Meadville, and the producers from Meadville. So it kind of was like the natural thing to do it there. And it couldn't be better. I mean, the people there were so nice and welcoming, and there are a lot of extras in our movie. They opened their homes and their restaurants and things to us. It was like having a back lot. I literally go to the bar over here, then go to the police station over here. I mean, there was a real police station. Like, just everything was there. It's a little town. You just walk over here, and we we used a local church and another swimming pool to be the Swills Cave. So we built that over there. We'd walk over there, and so I wasn't losing time on indie movies.
Right.
It's location. It's like, oh, we got to do another 4 locations or whatever, and it's like, oh man, you're losing time. I didn't lose time, and I got to paint as big as canvas as I could for this kind of movie. So that was a very important thing, shooting in Meadville, and essential. And it was started, they did an article on them on optioning the book and stuff, I think a year before I even got the material. So that was always in the works.
Nice. And that, I'm a nerd for that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
like that's really cool to hear that they're almost involved in making the film in their
Yeah.
own way. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I wasn't planning on asking you this, Kevin, but you mentioned some really interesting movies, Rosemary's Baby, The Changeling. What were some inspirations, if any, behind, making this and sitting down? Because I see those tones, like you mentioning those movies. I very much see those tones in here with Pig Hill.
Dario Argento, the Giallo Italian cinema was huge, Suspiria and everything. I mean, that movie is just one of my favorites. And also David Lynch, Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive. I mean, you can go on and on. Blue Velvet. I mean, he's a master. It's so sad we lost him.
Yeah.
Listening to music, listening to Cure, that beautiful Melancholia sound, one of my favorite bands. I'd listen to Cure constantly, every day, making that movie. The Goblin soundtrack from Suspiria I'd listen to. So yeah, I mean, all that was just influential. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to make a compelling human drama in this phantasmic world, and kind of deal with themes of gaslighting and isolation and grooming. But
I always feel the pressure to find the perfect gift for my relatives. In this case, whether you're sending an unforgettable gift or treating yourself to everyday perfection, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience. For me, I'm not just into steaks. I like all types of meat. That's why I'll usually get the Winter's Best Seller Pack. It comes with juicy fillets, chicken breast, pork chops, and even burgers. Omaha Steaks offers unrivaled quality and variety, and every bite is backed by their 100% guarantee. A family-owned company with over 100 years of experience in the meat industry. Save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and earn an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code YUM at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code YUM at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. Go to omahasteaks.com to get 50% off site-wide plus an extra 20% off select favorites and more limited-time deals during their cyber sale. And use promo code YUM at checkout for an extra $35 off. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details. A big thanks to our advertiser, Omaha Steaks.
Oh, the car from Carvana's here. Well, will you look at that? It's exactly what I ordered. Like, precisely. It would be crazy if there were any catches. But there aren't, right?
Right. Because that's how car buying should be. With Carvana, you get the car you want. Choose delivery or pickup, and a week to love it or return it.
Buy your car today with
Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
wrap it into this kind of monster movie, That's what I was excited about.
Yeah, the vision's there, after seeing the film and hearing you talk about, all these things and tying it into your own, 100%. I love that so much. We talked about the levels you guys went, and there's a lot of movies that use that shock value for the sake of shock value. And honestly, I hate that, if we're being completely honest, and it loses the intention that it's supposed to have on the effect on the viewer. And I do not think that Pig Hill is one of these movies. You guys, it's important to use those things when it means something, and you make it mean something by doing things. And there's a lot of storytelling involved with that. What was your process of balancing that? Because I think you did a good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had this conversation not too long ago. I have it more often than it's kind of weird. But, so many people mention these horror movies, and it's like, I roll my eyes at them because I'm like, yeah, they did all this, but what did it, it didn't mean anything, But there's a lot of stuff here where I could, without context, if you just isolate a scene, someone could have that reaction. But watching the whole film, it comes together and you were able to tie that story and to make it mean something and make very intense scenes make sense within a story. And what's it like balancing that? Because you guys went above and beyond.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything, right? Like, if you're cursing, if you use the F word all the time, it loses its value, right?
Yep.
It's just like, okay, can you use anything else then,
Right.
So I always had that in mind with this movie, when do you show things? And I respect the audience, horror fans, I think, are the best fans ever, right? And they're very forgiving. They can watch a movie that's low budget or whatever, but it's cool or whatever. They'll support it, So I'm an audience member when I make movies, and to me, you're asking someone to take 2 hours of their life to watch your film. It's better be something interesting, and so I always have that in the back of my mind. And I always like, okay, it's tough too, because you're like, what is people seen so much now, it's like, what is this? Is it, so it's like, but you don't want to do something just to shock people, just to do shock, because then it also, like, why are you doing it? So to me, everything's grounded in what's the purpose, what's going on with the characters, what's going on with the story, trying to make a real, organic story, but in this phantasmic world, right? And so it's like, okay, what can you see? What do you hear? What do you not see? What I leave to you, the viewer. And that's what's exciting, is that there's some things where I've done some things with sound and stuff where it's like, well, it's off camera, but you could probably, the images that you can come up with are better than what budget I had on this movie, So and so you fill in the blanks when you watch a movie like this, and I like that. The Shining is the perfect example. There's so many things going on, if you think about that movie, it's he abused Danny, the Jack Torrance character, and Kubrick, he's an abuser, and now you start going into those imagery to that, and it connects to that. So it's not just shock for shock. It's not, there's always so the idea was, always having a meaning behind it. And I am with you. I'm not a fan for gore's sake. Now, so like Evil Dead, I love because it's a wink and a nod. They know they're doing crazy stuff, and they're along the filmmakers. Maybe the character isn't, but and that's what I do with Willy's. It's like you build this world, the characters will take it seriously, but the filmmakers are winking and nodding at the audience, going, you guys got this, and that's kind of what I like to do. So I'm always like, okay, what do I need to show to really get that impact, and then when do I pull back? And so it's a dance, on making a film.
It's not what you do, it's how you do it. 1,000,000%. Yeah. There's a bunch of different ways to do it, and Willy's Wonderland is a great example too. You know, one could argue, again, if you isolate certain scenes, but in the film in its totality, you do certain things in certain ways. And I like that you mentioned when you don't show things, because, as a fan, not knowing, anything that goes into filmmaking personally, I as a fan, I look at it as sometimes brilliance is knowing when not to do something. And I mentioned the Blair Witch earlier, like that's a classic example where everyone's like, oh, you don't even see the witch. It's like, yeah, but what they didn't do creates in your mind something way more, no matter what they did, couldn't surpass what your imagination's coming up with. And you guys, that I didn't even realize that until you said it, but those moments I felt those same tones there, where you hear certain things and you just left it then. And I caught myself doing that. Holy shit, what could have happened here? Like, imagine. And but there's so much going on that it gets lost, but that effect is still there. I didn't even think of it until you mentioned it. That is great. Yeah.
Good. It's just, when to, I always want to be an audience member, and it's like, you don't want to put the pedal to the metal 100 miles an hour, right? You've got to let off. You've got to let people breathe. It's like, when do you do that? When do you, and you're working with a limited budget and time, and it's like, okay, what scenes are effective? And Nick said this to me on Willy's. I thought it was really interesting, because I asked him, like, when he reads a script, what attracts him, and he's like, well, if I see 3 scenes that I want to do, I'll do the movie. And it's like kind of like that. Like when I read Pig Hill, like the finale, I was like, I got to do this movie. Like, I'll get there. If I can get there, I could get this finale. This finale is so interesting to me Now I have the process of getting there and making it all work and making it have just make sense and make it very powerful and impactful.
Yeah.
That third act, I was like, that's the money. And I think of all my movies, I feel like right now, Pig Hill is most satisfactory for me on the third act. Like, I just feel like it's really, I don't think maybe I just think I got it. The tone, what the characters are going through, the story, wrapping it up. It's interesting too, because when I got the script, it was a different ending. I mean, it had the same ending, but the last scene was very different. And I pitched what's in the movie, and that's how they were like, yeah, we want you to make the movie. And I just saw it, and it was like, this is a very nihilistic film. And the last scene they had was kind of a sing-songy, romantic, wrap it up ending. Yeah. And I was like, no, this has to go dark. It's got to go really there.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with it. And that's the thing. It's like, a lot of people like this subject matter is just too intense or whatever, but I thrive on that because I just think, I always say I like to keep my drama in my cinema, and then Mr. Rogers in my real life. I don't need that stuff in my real life, but
don't we all?
Dramatically, it's cool. So
yeah. And my co-host, who just things changed in scheduling last minute. Yeah. She had watched it and she was shocked. She was taken aback by it a little bit, and her and I had sat down because we watched it separately. We talked about it, and when you start putting context to it, but yeah, it's hard for some people to watch, and sometimes you're just kind of shocked by it, and that's when you did your job, though. As a viewer looking at filmmakers like you guys, like that's when you did your job, because we're so desensitized to things.
Yeah, I mean, I had a great crew on this, and the writer Jared Burris that wrote the script, he was such a great partner in crime on making this movie, and everybody had the actors, that we all just had that vision of what we were doing. And I always carried Nancy's book with me along with the script, always like making sure I never got lost in the weeds, like this is what it's about. And the ending in the book is even more intense than what we have in the movie, if you believe it or not. So like there's no way we can pull that off. So I think we got the second to it, so it was good.
Yeah I don't know how I would have felt getting a lovey-dovey ending to this one. I don't know. Probably the right move, not having seen the alternate. But you mentioned the team, and yeah, I agree 100%. This was, just some movies are just I'm sure every movie, but some more so than others feel like such more of a team effort. And the performance in here backed up everything you guys did, and you don't always see that in that's changing nowadays, but you don't typically normally see that in like a big gore fest type film. But the performances backed up everything in the effects room, behind the camera, on the script and everything. What's it like? And this might be more of a personal question, I've always wondered this. What's it like casting specifically for this one, because you guys nailed it, everyone was great in their roles, but even more so in a film like this extreme, like what goes into saying, this is what we're going to do here, and getting everybody to roll with it and make it all work?
Well, I knew it was a polarizing material, right? So we're going to want to be a part of this movie or not, run for the hills. And, and so you're like, okay, you got to get people with the same vision that want to do something like this, something interesting and dark and edgy.
Right.
And so the actors were great because they got it immediately, and talking with them and working out with the characters and everything, it was just, we all hit it on the same page. And it was just important to be in that headspace and to know what we're doing, because when you do a movie on an indie level, especially, you don't have a lot of time and money, and so you don't have time to argue over things. So it's all prep. So you got to prep it beforehand. So I had many extensive conversations with the actors about the characters and going through stuff, and we rewrote things, right before shooting, and even during the day we would go through. I'm a big firm believer. There's directors like Quentin, and he writes all his stuff, and you say it just like he writes it, and that's awesome. He's a genius. But I'm a big fan of getting the script's the jumping off point. And so it's like it's the blueprint, but at the end of the day, it's the first step of making, if you want to, let's call this movie art, or movie making art. The art, it's like it's art to itself, a script, but then you, to really make that, you've got to bring it to life, right? So that's the second rewrite, is shooting it, is the second rewrite. You can rewrite a script 30, 40, 50, 100 times, but then it never becomes a rewritten script until you shoot it. Then you shoot it, now that's the rewrite. Now you go into post and cut it, and that's the final rewrite. So it's always being rewritten. And a script is kind of a moving entity, man. It's always changing. So I'm a firm believer in that. So when I meet actors and I talk with them, it's like, what do you like about this dialogue? And I try to divorce myself, even though if I like a scene, I like this line. Well, do you like it? Because you're playing the character. Would your character say that? I think they would. This is why I think they would. But what, and it's like, well, this or that, or they'll come to me, can I just shorten this? And I worked with a fantastic actor a while back, R.D. Call, and he did one of my movies, and he read the script and he crossed out all this dialogue. He's like, I don't need to say this. I don't need to say that. I'm going to do a look here. And it was just fascinating to me. And I learned a lot. And I was like, this is show and not tell. And so it's like, we got to show the characters, we got to show the moments, whatever. So that was a big thing working with the actors, is like, okay, can we do this in a look? Can we do this in, what are we trying to say? And do you like this dialogue, or is this hitting it over the head, And so we're going back and forth. So yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do, is really kind of work out the material with the actors to get it where they feel, you beat it up so much, it feels natural,
Yeah. Yeah, and we had someone on as a guest recently. I can't remember who it was, filmmaker, and we had a very similar conversation where whenever we are lucky enough to sit down and talk with guys like you and people who actually are in there doing it, know what they're doing, making films, that compromise and that back and forth is usually what creates the best kind of outcome for these films. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you get a different actor or whatever, that character is different, right? So it's all about, they always say like casting, and I feel with Pig Hill, we did a good job casting it. I think they all brought their A games, and even Max for Ethan and Jeff for Reggie, and just all of them, I thought were just really good. Isabella for Paula, like they are just fantastic,
Yeah, everybody nailed it. And, I feel like movies like Pig Hill, and just really the landscape in film and I guess society in general, where indie films are very different than what they were even 5 years ago, but 10 years ago for sure, where you would get an indie film and, people would kind of roll their eyes at it, and, you had expectations, and usually that's what you got back then 10 years ago. But now with technology and society and social media too, if you put your all into something, it could be anything.
Yeah, that's exciting too, because there's so much talk about streamers. Like I know Cameron came out with something about Netflix not having movies in theaters. Right. There should be, but then then there's actors that are doing Netflix and crew doing Netflix movies saying that's not right, and it's an interesting thing. And with streaming, there's like a love and hate relationship with it, because yes, with streaming we are getting more movies, more things, and maybe that clouds the market too much. Or maybe it is like a Pig Hill where something cool and interesting and different comes along and people get it. And that's another thing with these movies, is that it sometimes takes a while, right? Like it doesn't, something comes, we're so used to, it was a box office success or not the first weekend, it's like, no, some of these movies, you'll be on thing, it's like, a movie 10 years is #1 on Netflix, and you look, whoa. And I've had friends who made films that went nowhere, and all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, we're like trending, and so it's like, that's kind of cool. A movie lives on, so with Pig Hill, it's like, I feel like it's got some legs. I really want this movie to be a lasting movie where people just remember it, they see it and they're like, what, I remember that movie, because we're dealing with some pretty interesting subject matter,
Yeah, absolutely. And treated properly too. I feel like it's very important to mention as well, respected, no matter how dark it could be. But part of that is, and I'm kind of jumping around my run sheet here. You guys are working with Cineverse for this, and I feel like they've they've proven through, you could point to Terrifier is, the best example, right? Especially, along the lines of you guys. And they've proven that they're a distributor that has their projects back and truly cares about the horror genre. And they're pushing these films, and it's important to them to push them into theaters. And even if they're unrated, and get them in front of an audience and give the films a chance.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's very important to the horror genre. So what was it like working with Cineverse on this?
Oh, they're fantastic, and you're right, and that's what's exciting is they get it. They're doing cool, edgy stuff, movies that I like to make. So they've been a wonderful partner on this movie. They love the movie, and they've supported it and getting it out there. So yeah, it's just really great working with them.
Yeah, it's great. Speaking of Terrifier, I posted on social media now watching, and obviously it's not out yet and everything, but when I was sitting there, I was like, man, how would I tell someone what this movie is?
Yeah.
And the thought in my mind was like, man, a good description of this movie is kind of like this. The Pig Hill kind of almost makes Terrifier look like a Disney film. Like they're really pushing. And you guys and Cineverse and you both together got this in theaters. Like that's huge. So what's it like? Because now the way I view it, and we had talked to several guys like Adam Green and with the Hatchet films and what he went through back and getting that into theaters. You and the Terrifier crew and like these new wave of these bloody films, you're fighting that fight. And you're making a difference in media in general, especially for the horror genre. What's it like getting this film and being able to go see it in a theater? That's huge.
Well, thank you, Mike. Yeah, I mean, seeing it, was at Fright Fest, it was in the theater, and it was beautiful. And then we were at the Nightmares Film Festival, which we won an award, and that was great. I mean, I grew up in the theater, right? We all did. So for me, I'm making a movie. And you're making a film, you're asking for someone to spend 2 hours or whatever their time, and it's like, you go into a darkened theater and you watch, it's like, you better be good, right? So I'm always thinking about the audience when I make these films, and I like just doing something weird and unique and edgy and out batshit crazy, that's just, I like that material. That's fun for me, even though the subject matters, it's very serious and things like that. You can still have that, but you can build the world, and that's what I liked about this movie with the dream sequence and stuff. It's very like David Lynchian feel to it. It's kind of, I love David Lynch and Giallo, of course. Dario Argento, and just kind of going into different places. Don't you think movies are kind of like a waking dream state? And that's kind of what I wanted in this movie.
Yeah, that's a perfect description, actually, 100%.
Yeah.
And for Pig Hill, Kevin, I know that a question like this depends on a million different things, performance, all these things, audience, and all that stuff. But is Pig Hill something that you would want to dive into again? Do you have hopes for maybe a part 2, or is this something you want to have legs, or is this just a standalone, told my story, this is where it lies?
Well, it's interesting because, it's based on the book, and then, working with Jared and the producers and stuff, like, through the process, they were talking about doing a sequel. And in that point, you're like, I just need to get this movie made,
Absolutely.
I need to just focus on this. Now that that's said and done.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care. Go to Dutch.com to get vet care that is always there for just $92 a year.
And I mean, I love the world of Meadville and things, and I think there are some good stories, and we've talked about some ideas. So if someone is interested in doing a sequel, I'd be down for it. I mean, that's the thing too. Like, the pressure's on. Like, can it be better than the original or whatever? And I'm in the mindset of like, look, you have the original. Like Blade Runner, right? Blade Runner, like that's one of my favorite movies of all time. Blade Runner 2049 didn't top that movie, but it's a different movie. And even if I didn't like Blade Runner 2049, I still have Blade Runner. So there's some people that, oh, I just ruined it. No, I don't think so. So the trick is like, oh, you're going to top yourself, which is a good thing, but also that could be a trap. And at the end of the day, it's like, you know what, maybe you just do something different, but in the same world or something. But there are ideas floated around, and I'd totally be down for doing a sequel if it all worked out.
Okay, that's awesome to hear. And at Slasher, my co-host that couldn't be here, Rob, he is he has a spin-off podcast that he does about Nick Cage. He's probably the biggest Nick Cage fan in the world, and he is kicking himself in the ass right now for not being able to be here. So I can't let you get out of here without a Willy's Wonderland question. Speaking of sequels, because we're huge fans of that here at Slasher Radio. Is that something you want to get into again? Because I see a lot. Speaking of movies that last, Willy's Wonderland is one of them.
Oh yeah, I mean we have ideas. Thank you, by the way, on that. We have a lot of ideas. Nick had a cool idea that we were kicking around. We've got like 3 or 4 other ones that we want to do. So I'd definitely be open. I think the Willy's universe could be pretty cool.
Interesting. You mentioned universe. And the last question that I had for you, Kevin, is, and I don't know how much of gaming media you consume or anything like that, but universe is interesting because, you guys a lot of likeness to like Five Nights at Freddy's and things like that. And that was introduced into a horror game called Dead by Daylight. And that sparked a ton of discussion of, well, we need Willy's Wonderland now.
That'd be really cool.
Is that something you would love to see, that a Willy's Wonderland crossover into gaming?
Oh, it'd be great. They do have a Willy's Wonderland game already. It's like an old school, like Super Nintendo version, which is cool. But that'd be great. I mean, there's so many ways you could do that with Willy's. We got comic books on Willy's. I mean, there's some really cool stuff you could do. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Totally down for that. Yeah, and then we've talked about it, so there's definitely ideas.
Ooh, okay, I love that. Yeah, we need more Pig Hill. We need more Willy's Wonderland. We need more stuff by you, man.
Oh man, thank you,
Kevin. We appreciate your time, dude. It's been a blast. Your insight is incredible, and just thanks for everything you do for the genre, dude. We appreciate it. You guys are pushing boundaries.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks, Mike, for having me. Appreciate it.
Anytime. It's been a pleasure.